Two gates. One is sight, one is power. Open the wrong one first, and you get noise, burnout, and confusion. Open them in harmony, and your life turns transparent. Third eye or Kundalini? What's the real difference? By the end, you'll know the signs, the sequence, and a daily micro practice that keeps your energy clean and your vision kind. So let's begin. Today, we're diving deep into two of the most powerful and often confused concepts in spirituality, the third eye and Kundalini. You've probably heard these terms. Maybe you've heard about opening your third eye to see more clearly, or about a Kundalini awakening as this intense, life-changing energy surge. But what are they really? Are they the same thing? If not, how are they different? And most importantly, how do they relate to each other on your spiritual path? Let's clear up the confusion and find the truth. First, let's talk about the third eye. In many spiritual traditions, from Hinduism to Buddhism, the third eye, or Ajna chakra, is our sixth primary energy center. It's located right here. Host points to the space between their eyebrows. Now, this isn't a physical eye that's going to pop open. Think of it as your inner eye, your center for perception beyond what your two physical eyes can see. The third eye is the seat of your intuition, that gut feeling or inner knowing that you can't logically explain. Clarity, the ability to see the truth behind illusions and cut through the noise of the ego. Insight, those aha moments of sudden understanding. And inner vision. This can include everything from vivid meditation experiences to clairvoyance. On a physical level, it's often associated with the pineal and pituitary glands in the brain, which regulate our consciousness and perception. So, opening your third eye is a process of awakening this center. It's about learning to trust your inner wisdom and see the world and yourself with a new level of clarity. This is often done through practices like meditation, mindfulness, and focusing on this very point. Okay, so if the third eye is the seat of seeing, what is Kundalini? This is where we talk about energy. Kundalini is a Sanskrit word that translates to coiled one. It's described in yogic traditions as a primal, potent, divine feminine energy, a life force that lies dormant at the base of your spine, in your first chakra. Imagine a coiled serpent sleeping. This serpent is the source of your creative power, your divine potential. A Kundalini awakening is the process of this energy waking up. When this happens, this powerful energy begins to rise. It doesn't just go anywhere. It travels up your central energy channel, known as the Sushumna, which runs along your spine. And as it rises, it does something crucial. It moves through each of your chakras, one by one, purifying, activating, and awakening them. The ultimate goal of Kundalini is to travel all the way up from the base of the spine to the very top of the head, the crown chakra, or Sahasrara, and unite your individual consciousness with the divine, universal consciousness. This is the state we call enlightenment or spiritual liberation. But be aware, this is not a shortcut. A full-scale Kundalini awakening is one of the most profound and intense experiences a person can have. It can be blissful, but it can also be chaotic and challenging, shaking up your entire life. It's a deep, energetic transformation that demands respect. So now, let's put it all together. What is the difference between the third eye and Kundalini? Here's the simplest way to understand it. The third eye is a center of perception. Kundalini is the energy that activates it. Think of your energy system like a tall building with 7 floors or chakras. The third eye, the Ajna chakra, is the observatory on the 6th floor. It's the place you go to get the high-level view, the window to inner realms. Kundalini is the high-speed, high-power elevator that has been sitting in the basement, the root chakra. You can go to the 6th floor and clean the windows of the observatory. That's like doing meditation specifically to open your third eye. But a Kundalini awakening is when that powerful elevator in the basement activates. It shoots up the building, stopping at every floor, lighting it up, and turning on all the power, including the observatory on the 6th floor. So, a Kundalini awakening is a mechanism for opening the third eye. The rising Kundalini energy is the force that activates the Ajna chakra, often leading to profound intuitive insights and visions. But the third eye is just one stop on the Kundalini's much bigger journey. Kundalini is the entire process, the total energy surge that awakens your entire system. So, to summarize, the third eye is your sacred center of intuitive sight. Kundalini is the powerful, divine energy. When awakened, rises through your whole being to unlock that sight and everything else on its path to union with the divine. You don't need a full Kundalini awakening to begin working with your third eye. You can start today by simply closing your eyes, breathing, and bringing gentle awareness to that space between your brows. But now you know that these two concepts, while different, are deeply, beautifully, and powerfully connected. Think of your inner landscape as a sacred temple with two major currents. The third eye, Ajna, is the seer, perception, intuition, inner vision, pattern recognition, and discernment. Kundalini Shakti is the power, a coiled life force at the base of the spine that, when awakened, rises to transform your entire system. They're related but not identical. One expands your sight, the other upgrades the whole electrical grid. Let's break this down even further. The third eye focuses on awareness and perception. It is a state of being, a tool for intuition. Think of it as a specific destination, the sixth chakra, your center for clear sight. Kundalini, on the other hand, focuses on energy and activation. It is the process of transformation, the engine that fuels the entire awakening. It's the journey, the raw energy that rises up to and through that destination. So one is the clarity you achieve. The other is the force that gets you there. Here's another way to see it. Working with the third eye primarily awakens your perception. It's a profound shift in your mental and intuitive faculties, how you see and understand the world. Kundalini, however, initiates a systemic transformation. It's a total energetic overhaul of your entire being, your physical body, your mind, and your spirit. It's not just opening a window, it's rewiring the entire house. So, how do you know if your third eye is becoming more active? It's often more subtle than you might think. It's not usually about dramatic visions, but about a new quality of awareness. First, you'll notice a heightened intuition. That inner gut feeling becomes a clear inner yes or inner no. You just know things without being able to explain precisely how. Your world becomes more symbolic. You start seeing archetypes in your life, noticing synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences. Your dreams may become more vivid and packed with meaning. You also develop a calmer, observing mind. You gain more meta-awareness, meaning you can watch your own thoughts and emotions from a more detached, centered perspective. Your perception of the world gets finer. This is that subtle sensing. You might become more sensitive to the vibe of a room, the auras or energy of other people, or just a sense of the energetic textures around you. And finally, you'll have these moments of non-ordinary insight. These are flashes of deep understanding or clarity that feel profound, but they usually come without the intense physical overwhelm that can sometimes accompany deeper energetic shifts. It's a clear, calm seeing. Now, a Kundalini awakening is a much more physical and energetic experience. While the third eye is about seeing, Kundalini is about feeling, often intensely, and about profound internal movement. One of the most common initial signs is spinal sensations. You might feel warmth, tingling, buzzing, or distinct currents of energy moving up or down your spine. Your breath can change, becoming deeper, more rapid, or even spontaneous. You might find yourself naturally falling into certain mudras or even gentle, spontaneous postures. As your body intuitively moves with the energy, you'll likely experience powerful emotional releases, sudden waves of intense grief, joy, anger, or even bliss that seem to come out of nowhere, but then often resolve into a profound sense of peace and stillness. There's often a heightened vitality, a feeling of having more energy, more life force. But this also comes with periods of purification, where your system naturally desires healthier choices in diet, habits, and even relationships as it cleanses. And profoundly, you'll experience shifts in identity, less ego reactivity, less concern with superficial desires, and a greater alignment with your true self, leading to a more soul-centric way of living. This is where we get into the biggest confusions. The relationship between these two powerful concepts is subtle, so it's easy for myths to form. Let's clear up the four biggest ones right now. First, they're the same thing. Like we've covered this, but it's the most important myth to bust. No, the third eye is a perceptual faculty. Kundalini is a transformational energy. They can and do interact. Kundalini's rise can powerfully activate the third eye, but they are distinct. Myth 2, the third eye first, always. Not necessarily. Spiritual awakening isn't a rigid one-size-fits-all ladder. Some people do naturally open their perception first, but many others need significant grounding in the lower chakras, or a deep opening of the heart, before their system is ready for that level of sight. The real, safe sequence is whatever is nervous system appropriate for you. Myth 3. Kundalini is dangerous. This one needs respect. The energy itself isn't dangerous, it's intense. It is the source of life. The risk comes from forcing it. It comes from using aggressive practices without nervous system readiness, proper support, or a plan for integration. It's the difference between letting a flower bloom and prying the bud open with force. And finally, myth 4. An open third eye means you'll be seeing spirits and ghosts all the time. Slightly lighter tone. This isn't a horror movie. While sensitivity can increase, a mature, balanced ajna isn't about spooky visions. It feels like lucid clarity. It's about ethical discernment, seeing the truth of a situation. And most of all, it's about compassionate seeing, understanding the deeper patterns in yourself and others. Before we go any further, this is the most important part of the conversation. Both of these are profound spiritual paths, and they demand our respect. Here are the non-negotiables for engaging with this work safely and ethically. 1. Nervous system first. Your physical body is the container. Prioritize sleep, good nutrition, hydration, and gentle movement. You cannot build a stable spiritual house on a shaky foundation. A regulated nervous system is everything. 2. Go slow, go steady. Our culture wants instant, intense results. But in spiritual work, intensity without integration equals burnout. It's better to be the slow, steady tortoise than the hare who crashes. 3. Ethics and humility. If your spiritual practice is making you feel arrogant, better than, or more judgmental, you are feeding your ego. True sight always increases compassion, empathy, and a sense of shared humanity. 4. Have a support network. This could be a trusted mentor, a healthy community, or a wise tradition. These paths are ancient and were not meant to be walked alone. Don't white-knuckle a profound awakening by yourself. And 5. Medical and mental health. If you have existing conditions, please consult your professionals. Spiritual practice complements, not replaces, professional care. Be wise, be grounded, and be safe. So how can you safely and gently begin to cultivate this center of perception? It's not about forcing, but about consistent, gentle training. Here are some practices you can start with. If you're a beginner, just 5 or 10 minutes a day is perfect. First, try the soft gaze breath. Sit upright, eyes relaxed. Simply inhale for a count of 4 and have a slightly longer exhale for a count of 6. As you breathe, just feel the point between your eyebrows. Don't stare at it, just let it soften. Second, the attention ladder. Pick a simple object, like that candle flame. For 60 to 120 seconds, just track its details. Notice when your attention drifts, and it will. When it does, just kindly return your focus. This is a rep for your awareness. And third, start a symbol journal. Record your dreams, any synchronicities or repeated symbols you see during the day. Before bed, just ask, what is this teaching me today? You're training your brain to see the patterns. When you feel consistent with those, you can move to intermediate practices. This includes Tritaka, or classic candle gazing. After gazing at the flame, you'll close your eyes and gently focus on the after image, visualizing it at the center of your brow. You can also use inquiry prompts. In a challenging situation, pause and ask yourself, what am I not seeing? Or, what is the most compassionate interpretation here? And finally, ethical discernment. In one conversation per day, set an intention. Listen 70% of the time, speak 30%. You are actively training your perception to serve connection, not just your ego. And what about Kundalini? With this energy, our focus shifts from seeing to being. The priority is not to force an awakening, but to build a strong, stable, and receptive container for this profound life force. This is all about preparation and grounding. 1. Walking grounders. Spend 10 to 20 minutes a day just walking. Pay attention to your steps. If you can, do it barefoot on grass or earth to directly connect with that stabilizing energy. 2. Balanced breath. For 3 to 5 minutes, practice box breathing. Inhale for a count of 4, gently hold for 4, exhale for 4, and gently hold for 4. This is a primary tool for regulating your nervous system. And 3. Core and hip mobility. Gentle cat-cow's hip circles and child's pose. This isn't an intense workout. It's about keeping your spine and hips, the pathway of this energy, receptive and fluid. When those foundations feel solid, you might explore more structured practices. I must stress, if these are new to you, please seek guidance from a qualified, trauma-informed teacher. This can include ujjayi breathing, that's soft, oceanic sound in the back of your throat, practiced gently for 5 to 10 minutes, sirofrem or mantra and devotion. Choose a heart-centric mantra. As you repeat it, don't just say the words. Feel a genuine warmth and reverence spreading through your chest. And finally, bandhas or energy locks. These are advanced and should only be practiced gently, and if you've been properly taught, never force them. This brings us to the most important rule of all, trauma-aware pacing. If strong, overwhelming emotions or memories arise during any practice, your job is to pause. Stop immediately. Ground yourself. Sip water, journal about it, and only re-enter when you feel completely stable. This is not a race. Remember, Kundalini isn't a trophy. It's a relationship. Patience and reverence deepens everything. If this resonated with you, drop a comment on your experience with a third. eye, or Kundalini activation. Thank you for watching. Until next time, Universal Consciousness, signing out.